Welcome. In today's episode, we will be exploring the concept of perspective and how it affects our understanding of the world around us. We often hold certain beliefs, values, and assumptions about the world, but these can be shaped by our individual experiences, culture, and upbringing. In this podcast, we will consider the potential consequences of having a narrow or limited perspective, and how expanding our perspective can lead to a deeper and more nuanced understanding of the world and others. We will dive into some philosophical perspectives on empathy, open-mindedness, and relativism, and how they relate to the idea of expanding our perspective. So join us as we examine the role that perspective plays in our understanding of the world around us. Perspective refers to the way we view and interpret the world around us, and it can have a significant impact on our understanding of the world and others. A perspective is shaped by a variety of factors, including our individual experiences, beliefs, values, and cultural background. For the potential consequences of having a narrow or limited perspective, and how expanding our perspective can lead to a deeper understanding of the world and others. So what is a limited perspective? A limited perspective refers to a narrow or restricted view of the world and the issue that shapes it and issues that shape it. It is characterized by the lack of openness to diverse viewpoints and experiences, and may be shaped by individual biases, assumptions, and beliefs. Having a narrow or limited perspective can have a number of potential consequences. One consequence is that it can lead to a lack of understanding or empathy for others, who may have different experiences or perspectives. For example, if we only surround ourselves with people who share our beliefs and values, we may have a difficulty understanding and relating to those who have different viewpoints. This can lead to conflict and misunderstanding, and it make it harder to build meaningful relationships with others. A narrow perspective can also limit our understanding of the world and the complex issues that shape it. If we only consider our own experiences and perspectives, we may miss out on important, complex, or information that could help us understand, we may miss out on important context or information that could help us better understand the world around us. Expanding our perspectives can help us gain deeper understanding of the world around us. This can involve seeking out diverse viewpoints and experiences, and being open to learning from others who have different backgrounds and perspectives. This can help us see the world in a more nuanced and complex way, and can help us build more meaningful relationships with others. It is important to note that expanding our perspective doesn't necessarily mean that we need to agree with or adopt other perspectives, but rather that we should be open to consider them and understanding where they come from. This can help us develop a more well-rounded and nuanced understanding of the world and the people around us. To begin expanding our understanding, we should look upon the topic of culture, or known as culture relativism. We should first define culture as the shared belief, values, customs, behaviors, and artifacts that characterize a group or society. Culture influences the way we think about the precise perspective the world around us, as well as let's restart that. Culture influences the way we think about perceiving the world around us, as well as the way we interact with others. For example, culture beliefs and values can influence our attributes towards certain issues, such as gender roles or environmentalism. Society, on the other hand, refers to the people who live in a particular area or country, and the way they interact with one another. Society can also shape our perspective and understanding of reality through the norms, expectations, and institutions that are in place. For example, the education system in a particular society may emphasize certain subjects or ways of thinking which can influence an individual's perspective and understanding of the world around them. Upbringing, or the way a person is raised, also plays a role in shaping our perspective and understanding of reality. Our family and the environment in which we grow up can influence the values, beliefs, and behaviors that we adopt. For example, if we grow up in a household that values education and hard work, we may develop a perspective that places a high value on these things. It is important to recognize that all of these factors can influence our perspective and understanding of reality, and that our perspective is not necessarily objective or universal. It is also important to be open to considering different perspectives and ways of understanding the world, as this can help us gain a more well-rounded and nuanced understanding of reality. From a philosophical perspective, there are other ways that we can express ourselves in order to better understand and be more open to different perspectives. The concept of perception in philosophy refers to the way we perceive, we process, and interpret sensory information from the world around us. Philosophers have long debated the existence to which our perception of reality is accurate or objective. Some argue that our perception is shaped by our individual experiences and biases, and that it is difficult, if not impossible, to truly know the objective reality. Others argue that our perception can be a reliable guide to understanding reality, as long as we use reason and critical thinking to evaluate the informations we receive. Perception is a complex process that involves many different cognitive and neural processes, and it can be influenced by a variety of factors such as attention. It can be influenced by a variety of factors such as attention, memory, and prior knowledge. Perception is an essential part of our daily lives as it allows us to interact with and make sense of the world around us. The concept of subjective reality suggests that each person's understanding of reality is unique and shaped by their own individual experiences and perceptions. This perspective is often associated with postmodern philosophy, which emphasizes the role of language, culture, and power in shaping our understanding of the world. Some philosophers and theories such as relativism argued that there is no objective reality and that all perceptions of reality are subjective. Others argue that there is an objective reality that exists independently of individual perspective, but that our understanding of this reality is inherently shaped by our subjective experiences and biases. The concept of relativism, oh my goodness. The concept of realism suggests that there is no universal truth or objective truth, and that the truth and reality are relative to the individual or culture. This perspective is often associated with the culture realism, which argues that the values and beliefs of a particular culture should be understood and evaluated within their own context, rather than being judged by the standards of another culture. There are several different types of realism, including cultural realism, moral realism, and epistemological realism. It's a hard one. Cultural realism is the idea that the beliefs, values, and practices of culture should be understood and judged within the context of the culture, rather than by the standards of another culture. This means that there is no universal standard for which is right or wrong, good or bad, and that these judgments are relative to the culture in which they occur. Moral relativism is the idea that there is no universal standard for what is wrong or right, and that the moral judgment are relative to the individual or culture that holds them. This meaning that what is considered moral in one context may not be considered moral in another context. Epistemological relativism. Oh my goodness. I lost my spot. Where in the... Oh. Epistemological relativism is the idea that there is no absolute or universal truth, and that what is considered true is relative to the individual culture that holds it. This means that what is considered true in one context may not be considered true in another context. The concept of relativism suggests that only things we can be certain of is our mind and consciousness. According to this perspective, we cannot be certain of the existence of other people or the external world. This view is often seen as extreme and has been widely debated by philosophers. Relativism has also been criticized for being incompatible with our everyday experiences and common sense, as it suggests that the external world and other people do not exist in the way that we experience them. While relativism has been influential in some philosophical discussions, it is generally considered to be flawed and untenable philosophical position. The concept of empathy is central to many philosophical traditions and involving the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Many philosophers have argued that empathy is essential for building meaningful relationships and for understanding the perspective of others. For example, the philosopher Immanuel Kant argued that empathy is a key component of moral reasoning, and it's allowed us to understand the perspective of others and consider their needs and interests when making decisions. Our philosophical viewpoint of empathy is that it is a form of One philosophical viewpoint of empathy is that it is a form of moral imagination, which allows us to put ourselves in the shoes of others and to consider the world from their perspective. According to this view, empathy is what enables us to recognize the inherent value and dignity of other beings and to act in a way that respects and protects that value. Another philosophical view of empathy is that it is a form of emotional contagion, in which we automatically mirror the emotions of those around us. According to this view, empathy is a neural and automatic response to the emotional experiences of others, and it helps to create a sense of social connection. And it helps to create a sense of social connectedness and solidarity. Oh my goodness. Some of these words really trip me up sometimes. The concept of open-mindedness is another one. It is also related to the idea being open-minded, involves being willing to consider new ideas and perspectives, and being receptive to learning from others. This can help us gain a deeper understanding of the world and the complex issues that shaped it. For example, the philosopher John Dewey argued that open-mindedness is essential for democracy and for the development of new ideas and solutions. And philosophical discussions, the concept of open-mindedness is often related to the idea of epistemic humility, which refers to the recognition of our understanding of the world if necessarily limited by our individual perspectives and experiences, Epistemic humility involves a willingness to be able to, oh my goodness, involves willingness to be open to a new evidence and arguments, and to revise. I'm going to restart that. 3, 2, 1, restart. In philosophical discussions, the concept of open-mindedness is often related to the idea of epistemic humility, which refers to the recognition that our understanding of the world is necessarily limited by our individual perspectives, and experiences. Epistemic humility involves a willingness to be open-minded to new evidence and arguments, and to revise our views in light of them, as well as recognition of the fallibility of our beliefs and the importance of being open to the alternative perspective. Ooh. The concept of relativism suggests that there is no universal truth or objective truth, and that the truth and reality are relative to the individual or culture. This perspective can be seen as a form of open-mindedness, as it involves being open to consider the perspective and values of others, rather than assuming that our own perspective is the only one that is valid. There are several different forms of relativism, including moral relativism, which holds that moral values and beliefs are relative to the individual or culture, that there is no universal moral truth. Culturalism, which holds the cultural practices and beliefs should be understood and evaluated within the context of the culture in which they occur. And cognitive relativism, which holds that there are no universal standards of reasoning or truth, and that what is considered true or reasonable is dependent on the individual of culture or culture context. That was a lot. That was a mindful one. Jeez. Regardless of which perspective one takes, it is important to recognize that our understanding of reality is necessarily limited by our individual perspectives and experiences. By being open to considering different viewpoints and experiences, we can gain a more well-rounded and nuanced understanding of the world around us. In this podcast, we explore the concept of perspective and how it impacts our understanding of the world around us and others. Our perspective is shaped by our individual experiences, beliefs, values, and cultural backgrounds. And having a narrow or limited perspective can lead to a lack of understanding or empathy for others, and a limited understanding of the world. By expanding our perspective and considering diverse viewpoints and experiences, we can gain a better, deeper, and more nuanced understanding of the world and build more meaningful relationships with others. We also discussed the role of culture, society, and upbringing playing in shaping our perspective, and consider some philosophical perspectives on empathy, open-mindedness, and realism. I hope you enjoyed this episode on perspective. Sorry about mispronunciation in some areas. It's been a long day. This is your host signing off. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.